Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic, host of Bachelor Nation News. Happy Tuesday to all of you guys out there. We have our second Michelle Young video of the day. She's addressing the Bachelor Nation Happy Hour, Bachelor Happy Hour, her podcast, addressing that she's stepping aside or down from teaching, depending on how you want to look at it, which is honestly something I saw coming all along when she became the Bachelorette. You know, once you start seeing those deals, the amount of life-changing money that can be made with your social media following and quote-unquote influence, it can make it hard to go to a job that can be tolling, and teachers have it tough. They don't make that much money, and they work very, very hard. My thought has always been, as I've said, teachers need to be paid more. We need to take some money out of those missiles that, you know, we're building. Maybe one less rocket, and maybe we can put some higher paid teachers in. Anyway, you get the point. So we'll get into this audio of Michelle, what she had to say. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals. Going live right after this on Patreon, patreon.com/DaveNeal for private membership-only content, and also going to be live streaming the verdict, if it is reached today, on the Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard trial at Dave Neal Show. That channel has been absolutely popping off, millions of new views, tons of new subscribers. I think we're up to almost 25,000 subscribers. We're well on our way to not being a small YouTube channel any longer. All right, a boy can dream. So let's get into it. If you already saw this morning's video, we had Michelle addressing not wearing a ring. As we saw, someone videotaped her creepily from behind with no ring on, and she said, I took it off. But some people are saying, hey, we don't buy it, which is kind of the point. It's like, look, why don't we believe Michelle until, if they do break up, like some relationships do, they'll announce it when they do. And if they aren't breaking up, leave them alone. Stay out of their DMs. They're going to try to work it out. They're young and in love, folks. Anyway, obviously, it's a heavy topic when we discuss the tragedy that happened this past week in a school in Texas. It's a tragedy. Michelle Young, a teacher, has to deal with things in a way that's different from your normal people that it might not affect as much. It's true. When I was in Chicago over the weekend, I had a school teacher who is a fan of our program, shout out to Mary, come and watch one of my shows and, you know, talked about it being a heavy week. It was a heavy week for teachers, for students, and it's a cycle that's going to continue to go until we vote in the type of legislators that will do something about the issues that are out there. Now, this video, I'm sure, will address some of that, but let's just have a listen in Michelle's own words, what she has to say.
Welcome back, Happy Hour listeners. I'm so excited to be here with you all again for another episode of Bachelor Happy Hour. I am sad to say that I'm here solo today. Becca will not be with us. She will rejoin us next.
She proposed. He said yes.
I am
He said yes.
Because we are going to be having Nate and Rodney on today. So we're going to be third wheeling a little bit, and I'm not really sure if I'm the third wheel or Rodney's the third wheel.
Or maybe Nate.
I cannot wait to have two of my favorite guys on and to get all of that good energy.
By the way, isn't it great that Rodney and Nate have stayed friends? So, like, we forget Michelle dated Rodney, right? Wouldn't that be weird to be like, yeah, I'm hanging out with my lady and then this other girl I used to date? Oh, that would be a nightmare.
That they always bring. But before we jump into that, I want to do a little life update and a little recap. You know, it has been an incredibly heavy week as a teacher. And this year has been completely wild. It's been something that I couldn't even imagine, you know, starting the school year as Miss Young and Miss Young, the Bachelorette. It has been a complete whirlwind, hanging out with my students, teaching in the classroom, and then living that double life as a Bachelorette, walking red carpets and going to premieres. And wow, have things changed. It has really got me in this reflective mindset. And I, you know, a few weeks ago was talking with one of my coworkers who truly just did a mental health check-in with me. And I'm a big advocate for mental health and being able to talk, being able to share those things, being able to be vulnerable and open up. And I will be very honest with you, this is not easy for me to talk about because as important as I know vulnerability is, it's not an easy thing for me. Even though I was on the show in this very vulnerable situation. So I'm kind of just giving you a little inside scoop today.
All right, so then they go to an ad break we don't need to play, and then let's pick it up
And an empathetic understanding.
right here.
And my coworker kind of just asked me, well, Michelle, how long have you been in survival mode? And, as she asked that, it kind of caught me off guard to actually stop and think how long I have been in this position. And my response was 2 years. I've been in this survival mode 2 years where I have just been flying by the seat of my pants. But really not necessarily living or just surviving. And with the pandemic, with going through these crazy but awesome changes as the show, with getting a few...
Yeah, I mean, because look, not only does she have to juggle her time now between the fame of becoming the Bachelorette, but a relationship. Relationships require time and energy and effort. And, Nate, I believe, is still working in Texas. I know he's wanted to move to their home in Minnesota, but I think he's jumping back and forth. She's got a full-time teaching job and all the other aspects of being under contract on Disney. I mean, most of the people quit their jobs right away when they go on the show. So no pressure, Michelle. If you're not able to juggle it all, you're only a human. That's okay. Good on you for speaking about it.
Beyonce, there's just so much going on. And as I kind of sat and thought about that and thought about the position that I'm in, it really just highlighted the fact that there is so much going on with our education system. And
yeah,
I really feel that, as I move into this next year, I have decided to step out of the classroom.
Michelle Young stepping out of the classroom, and you can hear the timbre in her voice as she struggles not to cry here, because you can imagine thinking of all the kids, students that she has helped, all those connections. It must be a very tough decision to be made, but of course, you got to take care of yourself first.
Bear with me here. This is going to be emotional, so...
She's crying.
I've decided to step out of the classroom.
That's okay.
Because I need to make sure that, one, I'm taking care of myself, but two, those teachers and those who are in the profession know that teaching is a profession that is completely built on passion. Our foundation is passion. It's not money. It's not materials. It's not benefits. We are in it for the passion. And
I have goosebumps listening to this, and I know people are going to say, Dave, why do you keep interrupting it? Let it play. Go to Bachelor Happy Hour if you want to let it play. We're a commentary channel, right? So I just have to say, Michelle, if you're listening, you've got 1 million students on your Instagram. You can keep teaching. You can find a way to get your message out. The classroom's sort of an archaic system, right? The classroom's babysitters for parents, right? Now, not to negate what you do, but that's what it is. Literally, classrooms are set up like prisons, right? You're in some brick building. They're not in today's world necessarily the best places for a lot of people to be. So use that passion, use that energy to a much bigger audience. And while you might be letting down 18 students in your classroom, you might be sharing your gift with a much bigger audience. Look at it that way.
And the amazing thing about that is a lot of wonderful things can come from that. The difficult part of that and the realistic side of that is that when it's built on passion, if those people who are in those foundations aren't valued, if they're not supported,
bingo,
if they're not taken care of, if they're not
protected,
listened to, that foundation starts to crack. And I think you can talk to pretty much any teacher, and they will tell you that these last 2 years have been really difficult with the pandemic. And even before the pandemic, the foundation was already starting to crack.
And you wonder if administrators and people who are in charge of salaries and where we vote, you wonder, do we take teachers for granted? Is it easier to sell our nation on military because of a fear-based system, the military-industrial complex. Look, we can have a huge army and still not spend more than every other major, country combined, right? We spend so much money on our military. We don't spend it on universal health care. We don't spend it on inner city. We have food deserts in cities where kids aren't getting the right nutrition in their formative years. We have teachers that have to decide between GoFundMes to raise money for school supplies. We have students who want to learn an instrument, but the pads are falling off their saxophone because we don't have funding for that. Are you kidding me? Who would want to stay teaching as long as she has?
And these things keep piling and piling and piling. And honestly, we kind of call it this like big game of Jenga, right? Where you just keep stacking things on and you keep pulling out from underneath, and it gets more wobbly and it gets less supportive, and eventually it's going to, tumble down unless you figure out ways to repair those cracks and repair those holes. And honestly, when I really think about education, when I talk to my family about education, I really compare it to like an architect, right? Architect, engineer. When you're about to build a building, you look at the area, you look at the environment that you're building in, and you take all of those environmental factors into consideration when you're figuring out what materials to use, how to build a structure that is sturdy, a structure that's going to be successful. You're not going to, if you're going to build a skyscraper, you're going to have to figure out how to use different materials and structures and pillars that are going to make that successful, even in high winds, even in hurricanes, so that everybody is safe. And with education, and what we're seeing is the fact that you have these pillars of passion that are cracking and that are the exact same, even though the environment has changed.
Pillars of passion that are cracking. I mean, it might be that, we look at Michelle Young here, and we might need her to be putting pressure politically in different areas so that funding's better, so that we can raise the funds needed federally across to different states, so that we can educate our youth, protect them, and give them all of the tools to succeed. I mean, our infrastructure in our country is crippling, not just bridges, but those places that we're supposed to value where we bring our kids to school.
And these last 2 years have really amplified those cracks. And the result of that, and a big part of that, is teacher mental health, and not valuing our teachers. And I would say that education is something incredibly close to my heart. Being in the classroom and working with students is incredibly close to my heart. And it's something that I am passionate about. But with this cracked foundation, I see myself moving forward outside the classroom, giving back, raising awareness for teachers, and truly really moving and putting my energy and efforts with my platform towards being able to push for these types of changes. Because being in the classroom right now isn't the way to do that for me. Mental health. And, I think what's really difficult for me is that I came from, a reality TV show. I'm known as the Bachelorette Miss Young, which is a great thing, but it's also this pressure that I always have to be a teacher. And I love teaching, and I'm also burnt out on teaching.
All right, so you can go listen or watch, listen right now. The video's not up yet. Listen to the full episode there. An important update from Michelle. And I'm just going to say this. Yeah, can you imagine the burden that's been placed on her from everyone in her DMs and in her community that's so excited that a teacher is going to be represented and she's going to stay working. All of that pressure to keep working when her opportunities are so much bigger now. They're so much bigger. And that's why we have a hard time keeping teachers. Because most teachers say, look, I love the job, but I make $35,000, $40,000. I mean, you got guys trading crypto that are making that much in a day. You've got people that can push numbers on Wall Street, or bankers, and so many other professions can make so much more money, and they don't work as hard. Teachers work very, we get the summers up. They need it. You know what I mean? The teachers work very hard. And we need to come to a conclusion that we need to increase the demand for teachers wanting to work by paying them an amount that not only is worth their time, but also takes the stress off of having overstuffed classrooms or not enough school supplies. Like, make it work. Find countries and communities that put their money into educating our own. Now, the sinister side of things in me says, do we have states and counties and areas that don't want to educate our kids? Because education, as we know, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. Education is something that a lot of times people in power don't want their constituents to have. So we'll have to see what is next for Michelle. But Michelle, if you're out there and you're listening, there is no pressure from me to maintain a lifestyle that no longer works for you. And for everyone else out there, whether you're in a relationship or whether it's your job or a mom, whatever the case may be, if you're not feeling the love from the environment you're in, it's okay to leave. That is not quitting. That is not failing. That is progressing to the next stage of your life. And Michelle, we look forward to hearing about the next stage of your life. As I was talking on Thursday at DePaul University, I spoke on this, how I came from the School of Business. In the video, I talk about how much I made this last year. It might blow your mind, but I'm working hard to build equity in myself because I'm not going to get that from an employer because I'm just renting out my time to them. So the message, whether Michelle's telling it to you or not, the message is, find the ways where you can control your destiny, where you can build on your platform. And Miss Young, the school is still in session, but it's whatever you decide to do with it and wherever you decide to share it, and we will be tuning in. More content coming your way. I'll be live later when we get the Johnny Depp verdict at Dave Neal Show, and a Patreon at 10 a.m. Pacific time, patreon.com/Dave Neal. Bye, everybody.